I can at least share with you guys some of the hows of thinking differently and how that can affect your outcomes positively. And that's what we're going to talk about today. And my guess is that I'm not the only one here that feels a little different sometimes. Have any of you ever been talking to family or friends and you feel like they just don't see some of the things that you see? Right. When we go through some stuff today, you're going to hear some things that you probably go, oh, that might be why that's happening. Okay. Let's talk about neuroscience, because this is where it's all based. Because that's where it is. Like when I started studying neuroscience and mindset, that's where I think I can start explaining some of the how-tos of thinking and how it affects you guys, right? So neuroscience is the study of the nervous system, and the nervous system is the system in your body that coordinates all the intentional and involuntary actions. And by the way, and then of course it also, as you see, transmits signals between different parts of the body. If you guys were to guess, what do you think is the main body part involved with the nervous system? The brain, exactly. And it's funny because we don't really know that much, like, it's not general knowledge. Why isn't neuroscience general knowledge? I don't know, it's so important, right, to understand how the brain works, but probably mostly because it's only been about a decade now that they've really used imaging in studies. Like, they used to do all sorts of psychological studies, but it's only been about the last 10 years that they've actually brought people in and they activate different parts of the brain, like memory or creativity or whatever it is, and then they're actually hooked up to monitors so they can see what's going on in the brain as these things are going on. So the last 10 years has actually brought a lot of new information. It's like prolific, which is what I've been studying. It's really exciting stuff. So that's what we're going to talk about. So as you can see up here, there's two types of actions controlled by the brain. What are they? Intentional, involuntary. Here's how you want to think about it today so you understand what we go through. Intentional is the conscious side, right? Involuntary is the subconscious side. If you want to look at it kind of like a computer, it makes it really easy to understand. Your conscious is like the computer screen. What you're aware of that's going on, like what you can see. That's the conscious part. But the subconscious is like the rest of the computer, because can't we be working on a computer and we got something on screen, but there's also stuff going on in the computer it's processing that's not really showing on screen? Right? That's exactly how it works with you guys too. Your conscious is like the screen, but your subconscious is that computer that's still processing behind the scenes, even though you're not totally aware of what's going on. So let's talk about some examples. Consciously, you consciously raise your hand, right? You'll consciously answer my questions. You'll consciously high-five your neighbor and say, you are so good looking. Why don't we do that right now for practice? High-five your neighbor and say, you are so good looking. Yeah. That's right. So those, you're like still doing it. You're like, I'm high-fiving every neighbor. You're all good looking. Oh, you are too. Thank you. Good job. That's a front row person right there. Proximity is power, John Brown would say. Okay. So those are conscious choices. Now, can you guys tell me what you already know are some of the involuntary things your brain does for you? Breathing, heart rate. Exactly. When you get hot, your body starts to sweat to try to cool you down, right? So you guys understand that. But let me ask you this. Are there things that could be either conscious or subconscious? Absolutely, because breathing is a good example, right? You don't have to think about it. You're still going to do it. But can we consciously control our breathing? Absolutely. You've been hearing that from all, right? John Vroman mentioned it. Jeremy Reisig mentioned it. You'll hear it from me again later, but you can choose to breathe more deeply, more slowly, whatever. So some things can be both. The thing you need to understand, too, if you didn't already know this, is that thinking can be both. Thinking can be either or both, actually, at the same time, subconscious and conscious. So here's the thing. What do you guys think is the body part that's in control of what you see? What do you think most people would think is the body part in control of what you see? Your eyes, right? But then have any of you had the experience where like you go to look for something, whether it's sunglasses or keys or your phone charger, and you look in your bag first and it's not there, right? And then you go over and you look in your room and you look around and it's not in your room, and you look on your desk and it's not on your desk, and then you go look in your car and it's not in your car, and then you look in your sibling or your roommate's room because they probably borrowed it again, only it's not there either. Right? Then you go back to the bag where you started and look again, and there it is. Anybody ever done that? Me too. So studies show, this is amazing to me, studies show that there are millions of pieces of information in our surroundings every second. Millions of pieces of information in our surroundings every second. And how much gets through? How much do we perceive? About 40 bits a second. That's still a lot, but it's not millions. 40 compared to millions, and I think the number was like 11 million, by the way, but I just put millions. So the question is, what controls what gets through? The answer is your subconscious. Your subconscious controls what gets through. Have any of you ever seen the FedEx logo before? Like either on the truck or on the storefront, or you see it on TV or on the box, or you saw Castaway the movie, but you've seen the FedEx logo? How many of you think you've seen the FedEx logo at least 10 or 20 times in your life? Okay. Anybody think they've seen it more than that probably? Okay. Without saying it, don't say it out loud because not everybody's going to know the answer, but, sorry. Who can tell me, just by a raise of hands, where the arrow is in the FedEx logo? Now, I know everybody knows probably the arrow and the airman's on, right? A to Z, the little smiley face. So some of you can. But the rest of you in the room have seen it more than 20 times in your life, and you don't know where the arrow is, right? So there's the FedEx logo. Do you see the arrow? How many see it now? Some of you? That's not all that many hands. Does anybody need me to point it out? Between the E and the X, the white space that creates the little... Like, oh, there it is. Okay. The reason, by the way, this is going to be key to what we talk about, but the reason that, and by the way, when I was shown this and asked the same question, I had never seen the arrow before either. Like, it wasn't until they're like, there's an arrow, and then they popped it up, and I was, oh, there's an arrow, right? I had no idea. It's because a lot of times it depends on how your subconscious or your brain is primed that affects that filter as far as what gets through. Okay, 98% of brain activity is all happening below conscious awareness. That's a crazy number. So here's the question. If you consciously choose your goals and your dreams, but 98% of brain activity is below conscious awareness, and your subconscious is the filter that determines what gets through from your environment, can you see why we want to train our subconscious to be on board with our goals, our conscious goals, so that we are more likely to achieve them?